Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Brahmanandam Param Sukhadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasyavi Lakshyam Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Triguna-rahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. Om. Adoration to Sadguru, who is Brahman, the giver of supreme bliss, embodiment of pure consciousness, one without a second, vast as the ether, infinite, eternal, beyond the three gunas and their modifications, the supreme preceptor. Yoga Vasistha, Utpatti Prakarana, and section 123. The topic of 7 steps of wisdom, that topic is being highlighted. And we are coming close to this particular volume or particular big section called Utpatti Prakarana. Just again to reiterate, 7 steps. First is Shubhecha, you develop aspiration. Next step is Vicharana. Your mind becomes reflective. Your mind is always thinking about other things. It is deflective. The mind directs its focus to the most important matter. Who am I? Aren't you most important in this whole world? Look around and figure it out. Who is most important? Unless you are there, first you must be there. So who are you? If mind becomes interested that way, that's called Vicharana. And Vicharana begins to remove negative vasanas, subtle desires that are based upon aberrated activities of your mind. Mind that is constantly going after things that are not of value to you and things that are not real. And on the basis of that, mind has gathered a lot of muck. More in a scriptural way, you have developed the subtle desires. They are the basis of your spiritual progress, as well as they are the cause of your bondage. And that makes every person helpless because you don't know your subtle desires. And how do they operate? I will not go into details because those points we have discussed before. After Tanumanasi, after this, first I said Shubhecha, aspiration, Vicharana, reflection. Third stage is Tanumanasi. Those vasanas are becoming thinned out as a result of your Vicharana, the right type of reflection. And then this Tanumanasi state leads you to Sattvapatti. Sattvapatti, mind is permeated by light. If you think of a cloud obstructing the sun, you are unable to see the sun. The first stage, sun doesn't exist. Cloud has completely blocked it. Next stage of seeing the sun, the cloud is creating a refraction of sun's illuminations. Now you are seeing the sun in so many ways. And when the cloud is your vasanas, when cloud begins to thin out, now you have the best experience. Cloud, instead of refracting the sun, begins to praise the sun. Cloud says, look, look, how am I shining? And you say, oh, you are so wonderful, you are shining. No, no, the sun is shining. The Shubhavasana draws your attention in such a way that you are not glorifying the Vasana, you are glorifying the revelation. Figure that out. Everything is a big puzzle. If you have reached that state, that becomes Sattvapatti, you are enlightened. You are called Jeevan Mukta. That's your goal. It's only 4 fingers, that's all. Shubhecha, Vicharana, Tanumanasi, Sattvapatti. Other 3 stages are just a normal expression without, that doesn't need your effort at all. It automatically happens. And they are Asamsakti. You live in the world and find yourself not getting attached, not becoming bonded with things of the world. Simple illustration, just like handle vegetables, etc. But some vegetables are so sticky, like green plantains, things of that nature. Jackfruits. They hijack your fingers. And the remedy is you allow your hands to be oiled. Put some oil in your hand, put some butter in your hand, then work. And what I'm leading to, just make you understand, that symbolizes detachment. Anasakti. Anasakti based upon love of God. God is the reality behind things. On the basis of that, to develop that type of objects do not hold your attention. Ghat ghat mein hai sai ramta. Through every object, through everything that comes within your consciousness, you see the reality of the consciousness. Consciousness is the light, the sun. That sun is expressing through your intellect level, enabling you to become aware of your ego, aware of your intellect, aware of your thoughts. Behind all that, there is simple awareness. And that awareness doesn't just stay just in the thoughts level, it becomes the basis of awareness of your feeling, sentiments, and then awareness of your practical reality. Always remember there are 3 lokas. Bhur loka is a practical reality. Bhuvar loka, your awareness based on your sentiments. Swar loka based upon your intellect. All these 3 lokas, they are not the pure consciousness. Pure consciousness is expressing in these 3 lokas due to limitation caused by ignorance. Pure consciousness, just like the sun, causes different layers of illuminations. Illumination in the cloud level. Illumination that breaks into rainbows, etc. illumination that comes upon the earth in the form of so many reflected suns and shining drops and so forth. Though you are seeing so many things, but if you ask what is real behind it, the sun. And all this has come from the sun. That's again the use of palabra. All this didn't come from the sun. They didn't walk out. Sun didn't move. Sun is ever the same. And you live in such a mysterious world that everyone is reminded of this great reality every day. When you go to sleep, you're not using your wonderful mind. Your ego that was always jumping around is not there. The big world of yesterday, today, and tomorrow is not there. And you are not affected. That is what you are all the time. That point has to develop deep. But it is not a matter of intellectual concept. You need to understand it's a spiritual sadhana is a kind of a growth, tree growing. You tell the tree you are. See, little plant you are seeing, a plant of a banyan tree. And it is swarmed by so many things and miserable. Don't you know you are the banyan tree? I'm joking, but try to understand. It is a true reality, yes. But that banyan tree has to go on growing. Simply when it is told, it doesn't mean it becomes free of all troubles. When you hear all that, it doesn't mean you become from tomorrow no more. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. But all this listening helps you to grow. A growing movement has to be understood is your integral yoga in life. How do you spend your time from morning till evening? Allow your subtle spiritual sensitivity to organize your whole personality, how to do your actions, your duties, what type of sentiments you should hold on to, otherwise discard them, how to let your intellect make its research in what direction. Although I will not go into too much detail, but that's what it means. Practicing integral yoga in your daily life and allowing your mind to go on listening, reflecting, meditating. If that happens, these ascending steps develop in your personality without telling you. Look, Tanumanasi has come. You are moving away from Shubhecha to Vicharana. There is no such announcement. And also understand these states are not well-defined mathematical states. They are abstract. So, even if you have reached Sattvapatti state or even Tanumanasi state, your mind will go back to all other states and sometimes can be stateless. But all those situations will not stay permanently. They are just like a tree as it grows, will have its shaking possibility. If it doesn't have the shaking ability or shaking flexibility, it's unhealthy. Only thing wrong with the shaking, don't break at your root. And your root level itself goes on moving into higher and higher status, implying if your root was, say, for example, in Kundalini Yoga, it started with Muladhara, that's the root. Now if you go higher, your root becomes Svadhisthana. Up. Go higher still, root becomes your heart. Heart is your root, but then your Kundalini will go up and down, even though its root is in the heart. So in other words, do not let your mind be too disturbed. When you are doing sadhana and suddenly you lose your inner peace, do not develop the idea that now you have tumbled back far, like 7 births back. and you are hopeless. You don't think that way. You are simply shaking. Therefore, the mantra is wait, watch, wonder. And that ability and that interest in waiting is a healthy sign of progress. So, just to continue with that. So after 4th, you came to Asamsakti state. After Asamsakti, you come to Padartha Bhavana. Padartha Bhavana means the entire world experience in this context called Padartha. Abhavana, it becomes completely vanished. Just like in your deep sleep, all things that mattered in your mind have vanished. Matterless. Doesn't matter. Never mind. Doesn't matter. Then both take it to the climax, that's Padartha Bhavana. And then ends up 7th, called Turiya, which is just transcendental. Now, all this has been described with some concept, some words. Now, just relax. Don't go after all these. Transcendental. A sage becomes a Jeevan Mukta when he enters the 4th state of Sattvapatti and continues to experience increasing expansion of the self as his karmas and vasanas are gradually destroyed. Through the 6th and 7th states, he passes on into the state of Videha Mukti. In other words, he can't hold the body. Videha term is used in 2 ways. The moment you have attained Jeevan Mukti, you are Videha. Deep down, you don't view yourself as body. Though you need a chair. If you are weak, you need a stick. No matter all that, in spite of all that, you are Videha. And that's more in an allegorical way. And in a more literal way, you come to a state when the physical body is coming to an end. And it ends. Then people speak of what happened to that sage. He was in Jeevan Mukta, he became Videha Mukta. A liberated sage does not delight in objects that have been gained, nor does he grieve for objects that have been lost. All this also has to be understood in a profound way. In practical world, no matter how enlightened, rather enlightened sages, they remain more practical than you can imagine. More practical, implying your sensitivity increases because you are looking at the world in a completely objective way. So therefore you are not missing any point. But if you are not highly advanced, they are not looking at the world, you are looking at according to your interest. Is this person interesting? Then let me look at it. Not interesting? Turn that way. But your mind has gone into higher level, that all this is my own family. All these are near and dear ones. So, now his view of people has much more, it's much more qualitative. And his activities to help others are much more dynamic. So, what I'm leading you to understand, a sage will express a lot of delight. He sees someone who has been suffering and his suffering has gone away. A mother sees a child suffering and then child suddenly begins to smile. Tremendous delight. Therefore, when we say the sage doesn't delight when things are gained in a positive way, nor does he grieve when things are lost. That relates to his heart level. Delight means he does not have the sense that he has gained something new. If you have already experience of bliss, supreme contentment, param tripti, you are not being fulfilled by the world. You are already fulfilled. But in your practical dealings with others, you will have much better affection to people, much better good-heartedness towards, more gentleness, more tenderness, more joyousness, all will express better than before. What happens generally is parents reading this, they begin to practice stone-like face. Someone says, good news is there. Nirvikalpa. So that's illusion, being trapped by illusion. So keeping this in view, understand that your deeper rootedness, that remains unaffected, gain or loss. Patatyangar varshecha. If suddenly burning embers were to fall all over, vativa malayanile, or things change in such a positive way the gentle, graceful, fragrant wind begins to blow. To one who is enlightened, he is Brahman. Brahman has nothing to do with these changes. He remains just the same. The sun remains the same. Whether the earthly atmosphere shines with reddish glow and lot of joyous celebration of light, or whether all the light has been ducked, sun is just the same. Try to figure that out. He is contented with whatever nature presents to him in daily life. He has param tripti. He is absolutely fulfilled. Purnamada. Attained realization, I am Brahman, full, not a fool. He is ever free from fear, attachment and anger, bhaya, raga and dvesha. These three are, bhaya is fear. And fear relates to abhinivesha klesha, the fear of losing your life. Everyone is gripped by it. And no matter how advanced you are, that fear will operate. But only thing is, if you are advanced, fear will give you a shaking movement. You will not be shaken from the root. If you are not so advanced, fear gives you a slap, breaking movement. Remember always those 5 kleshas. Ignorance. Ignorance itself remains abstract. Source of all the 4 kleshas, 4 afflictions. Out of ignorance arises egoism. Egoism itself, if you are highly sensitive, then you will view your ignorance as a big thorn. Your egoism. You view your egoism, you begin to have an objective view of your status of your ego. Ego can be sattvic, it can be rajasic, it can be tamasic. Tamasic ego, recognize it, that you direct your attention to do more yoga, more wait and watch, and allow the tamasic ego to move away by more satsanga, etc. Or you understand it is rajasic ego, then bring it under the control. And sattvic ego, then there is no problem. Sattvic ego is like if you are holding a rod before you, that rod, if it is opaque and black, you can't see anything beyond the rod. The rod becomes your obstruction. You see only the ego big rock or big rod. Rajasic is not just an obstructive rod, but it creates distractions. Somehow you cannot see exactly, but whatever you are holding is refracting your vision. It has a lens effect. Sattvic, it is so transparent that though you are holding it, you are seeing far beyond the rod. It is not obstructing your view. Again, I've defined it in a quick manner, but in experience, these 3 are blended in every individual. You do not suddenly wake up with completely sattvic ego. But you go on highlighting your aspiration for maintaining more and more sattva. So, handling ego I was describing. Raga and dvesha come to another level. Dominated by ego, mind always moves. Mind does not have serenity. It always swings. A situation that brings some sense of pleasure, you swing to it. You want that situation to continue. You want that force to continue with you. That's called raga. You want to hold on to it. Similarly, something happens that takes you away from your happiness. Then you hold on to your mind to negate it, not to look at it, dump it, send it to hell. That's dvesha. Mind is so busy doing these two things that it loses the opportunity for practicing serenity. Serenity, mind is not working upon what you have gained and what you have lost, nothing. Mind is simply enjoying its calm reflection, moving into sleepless sleep. In normal sleep, you don't enjoy what has happened. You don't gain the philosophical insight. In other words, you sleep, everything has gone away, and wake up, and you have no idea what changed. If you have been completely relaxed, what has happened to you now? Are you different? But when we say sleepless sleep, bring that state even while you are awake by your understanding. As your understanding advances and you develop maturity of vision, then even though you are living in the world that is constantly clamoring and constantly glamoring and all that, as if you are in deep sleep. If that's not easy to understand mona. You are diving to deep dumbness and mona. Silence. Silencio. O Rama, how can there be an occasion for pleasure or pain for one who is essentially the Supreme Self? Here we are being given essentially the Supreme Self. If you realize, who am I? That realization is not based upon your mind or your nervous system. That realization transcends this whole operation of mind and nerves. Prior to realization, your mind and your nervous system come to such a state of purification, just like cloud comes to a state of fleecy state, allowing the sun to pass through. So your mind, your nervous system, they become aligned in such a way that revelation occurs. And what type of experience comes? Sun has all illuminations coming and going day by day. The sun has no need to grieve over all that. The screen in a cinema show brings about so many stories of terrible pathos, terror, and more terror than comedy. And the screen has nothing to do with it. The sky gathers in itself lots of clouds, positive and negative. And the sky has nothing, not affected. So these are your big gurus, the sky, the screen, the sun. That's what you are, Vasistha says to Rama. Devoid of impurities, devoid of distractions, free of the veil of ignorance, self-effulgent and indestructible. You have no friend or relative. Son doesn't have any friend, doesn't talk. Tell me the gossips of the world. You are the Supreme Self, and you cannot experience grief at the loss of relatives. That's a profound point to understand. You see. All loss and gain, birth and death, all that are drama created through the projections of the mind. All these experiences are mind's experience. But when mind becomes calm, led by spiritual enlightenment, with the calmness of the mind, the screen, the substratum, the absolute reality begins to shine. So the mind really brings about the glory of the self through Mauna. The more calmness, the more serenity in your mind, greater is your spiritual eloquence. Only as long as relatives and dear ones are considered bodies will they need to be grieved for. Here is a very advanced culture. If we are to enter in human society, world will be led to tremendous height of glory, peace. And that is, what is that? Your relatives, near and dear ones, they are not bodies. That doesn't mean that you don't respect their bodies. But let me dramatize it, what it means. People generally they cannot handle deaths. Near and dear one is with you, and you do not build up a profounder relationship based on divine love. But the relationship remains shallow, satisfying whims. It's a whimsical relationship. When relationship matures, then you cut down your whim and you begin to really try to understand what will help the person towards whom you have tender love. And if you go further, how can your love will be the best? God expressing through all souls. So, through your goodness towards anybody, you are connecting yourself to God. And people are, those who are being helped by you, they are providing you with opportunity. So you begin to view your good actions not with a kind of a subtle ego that I am very compassionate. I'm tender-hearted. But these people are crude-hearted. So that's coming to the advanced stage. God is the love, the embodiment of infinite love. And your urge within your heart to love and be loved can be fulfilled by moving towards God. But relationships bring about variations of to love and be loved, express themselves in so many ways, in every situation. If you are a student, if you are doing in your job, you have always some room to love your people you are working with, to be loved by them. But behind all this, God is the reality. So if you are highly advanced, or if you are planning to attain enlightenment, then the whisper of divine love must enter in every gentle action. And what's more shocking, even negative actions, people who appear to be challenging, give challenges to your goodness of your heart. I'm talking about dusht. People who are too blunt, crude, too rude. Even towards now, if you are highly advanced, you understand that such a personality is sick. If your dear child is sick, I'll say abrupt things, even kicks you constantly. You try to massage his feet. That profound ideal has to enter into your heart, and you have to have guts for it. And as you advance, God gives you all that. Nothing is impossible. It becomes easy. And when you see that type of display of character, saintly character that deals with negative personalities in such a way that negativity becomes sublimated. And that becomes the most inspiring source of inspiration for humanity. No matter how the world may move, but the inspiration comes from those people in all religions of the world. But only thing, they don't keep that. They forget the importance of bringing that teaching to the masses. They think it contradicts the technology. Coming back again, relatives and near and dear ones, they are all souls. In life and after death, both ways. Do not dump grief over them. Live your life in such a way that it has a purposeful relation to help others in a nice way, healthy way. Not help others so that person behaves exactly as you wish. That's a different type of health. but helping others to be free. If that type of, again, that switching from a lesser type of dealing with people to higher is a gradual movement. And you always make errors and you try to correct them. But that's beauty of life. Do not stay with error. Go on correcting it. And if that has become highly advanced, then you understand people who have passed away, they were souls, and the souls led by their plan of spiritual movement, they have left the body and they are moving on in divine plan. They should be celebrated. God must be brought into that situation, not grief. But again, I'm talking about very high ideal, and you can't expect from normal society. So then, sages also adopt different ways of approaching people. And what I'm implying is, in general culture, it is considered normal and commendable that people grieve over someone who is dead. And there are people who sometimes employ people who shed tears. I'm leading you too much distraction, but the idea that is a childish kindergarten level. The real way is to understand in your heart the soul has not died. It is a joyous condition for the soul. If at all you have to grieve over yourself. Someone has faced his life, moved away. But try to figure out your own predicament. And there again, I'm joking. You are soul. Same applies to you. You don't have to grieve over it. Your body came to you it was not your headache. God planned your body. And it shouldn't be your headache if God takes the body away. The movement must be sahaj, spontaneous. So do not let your mind go on worrying about what will happen if I get paralyzed. What will happen if I'm 90-year-old? Human mind goes on imagining. And a lot of fear enters the heart. What will happen to my money? And so forth. You are the indestructible Atman. Why then should you entertain the thought, I am the mortal personality? Why do you give room to sorrow and grief? Death cannot exist in the self. In the same way as darkness cannot exist in the sun. Then why should you sustain fear of death? All objects of the senses, whether it be smelt, seen, touched, tasted or heard, are in reality the self. The powers of the mind and the senses are not different from the self, who is the repository of all powers. When the body dies, the self is unaffected. When an illusory mirage is destroyed, the sun which sustained it is ever unaffected. discover the illusoriness of desire. Since the Atman, the self alone is, how can there be desires for the objects of the world? Implying it's just like saying all illuminations are nothing but the sun. Then how can you ever imagine offering illuminations to please the sun? O Rama, the three worlds have arisen due to Maya. Three worlds, same word, physical reality, reality based on sentiments, and reality based on your intellect. Bhur-bhuva-swa. Consisting of three gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas. When the vasanas are annihilated, one becomes free of Maya and discovers the self to be the non-dual reality. Always remember the 3 points. Manonash. When a mind becomes free of swinging, it swings, but mind remains balanced, serene. That state is Manonash. It matches up with purity of vasanas, subtle desires that are not sustaining the kleshas, ignorance, egoism, etc. And finally, the veil of ignorance is removed. So we talk about Manonash, Vasanakshaya, Tattva Jnan. When these three have become attained, soul is absolutely free. And these three are not exactly 3 points, they are one and the same described in 3 ways. And with this I will conclude. Om Trayambakam Vijamahe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Urvarukma Bandhanan Mrityor Mukshiyama Mritat Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukha Bhag Bhavet Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Hari Om.